Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Agricultural Research or DABAR, in collaboration with the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Institute of Agroforestry, the Philippine Agroforestry Education and Research Network, and the International Rubber Research and Development Board or IRRDB, conducted the first international conference on smallholder rubber-based agroforestry last December 5 to 7, 2012 at the Bayleaf Intramuros Hotel in Manila, Philippines. This year's conference carries the theme, Integrated Environmental Management through Smallholder Rubber-Based Agroforestry. In attendance were participants from Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, India, Indonesia, Cambodia, and the Philippines. Also present were project leaders, proponents of rubber-based R&D initiatives from selected state universities and colleges, DA regional field units, local government units, and the private sector. Distinguished guests present during the opening ceremony included Dr. Jesus Antonio Derije, President of the University of Southern Mindanao, Mr. Phan Tan Dong of Rubber Research Institute of Vietnam, Dr. Abdul Aziz S.A. Kadir, Secretary General of IRRDB, Dr. Nicomedes Eleazar, Director of DABAR, Dr. James Jacob, Director of the Rubber Research Institute of India, Dr. Rex Victor Cruz, Chancellor of UPLB, and Mr. Suthi Intraschool of the Rubber Research Institute of Thailand. Secretary Proceso Alcala of the Department of Agriculture served as the guest of honor. Director Eleazar welcomed the congregation and recognized all the officials representing the respective countries. He emphasized the importance of this conference and the benefits that the rubber industry will reap from such collaboration. According to Dr. Eleazar, this conference will enable us to see the current perspective of the rubber industry in each members of the IRRDB. In his brief but meaningful message, Dr. Cruz assured that the UPLB will continue to be an active partner in promoting and advancing the science and practice of rubber production. Secretary Alcala, in his keynote address, acknowledged the importance of collaborations such as this rubber initiative, as he reported how much the Philippines needs to produce natural rubber, as most of our rubber requirements are filled via importation. This is an opportune time for the rubber industry, as the demand for natural rubber is expected to grow by 3.7 in the next 10 years, Secretary Alcala stated. Also, part of the opening ceremony was the launching of two significant publications, which are results of the collaboration between DABAR and the University of Southern Mindanao. Hivialog, a catalog of Hevea germplasms in the Philippines, authored by Dr. Emma Sales and co-authored by Dr. Romulo Sena and Ms. Nilda Butardo, and Rubber Production and Management in the Philippines, authored by Dr. Naomi Tangonan, and others. Plenary paper presentations during the first day began with 3 keynote paper presentations. The first keynote paper presentation was by Dr. Aziz on recent scenario and prospects of rubber industry in IRRDB countries.
The rubber industry is going through a very important phase of development because you know that 75% of the world's natural rubber supply goes into the transportation sector as tires. So it is obviously very, very important. But currently, we are faced with this Euro debt crisis, fiscal cliff in the United States. So the world's economy is something that we worry at the moment because you know with a good economy, then people are able to buy the cars. So it's quite related to the automotive industry. However, we are looking that in the next year things might improve a little bit towards the end. Then the demand for the tires will improve. Because you know we are looking at the not only BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, also African countries. Because a lot of motorcycles now being used in also Africa, and we can see that the growth in the automotive sector. For example, if you are looking at per thousand, how many vehicles in India, is very low, maybe about 17. So if this increases, so demand for vehicles will improve. So while we are looking with concern the economic situation, which is not very good in the European Union, US, but in our region is growing. So India, China, so the demand for natural rubber is there, is good. And as I mentioned earlier, natural rubber is not just for tires. For the gloves, there are 50,000 products. So what we would like to see, those countries who grow natural rubber will go for the value addition, which means go into product manufacturing. This will provide employment. Also, you get a better price for your rubber rather than just selling the raw material. So that's the situation.
The second keynote paper presentation was by Dr. Jacob on monoculture of natural rubber and biodiversity concerns. And the third keynote paper presentation was by Mr. Rodolfo Galang on current activities on rubber research and development in the Philippines.
The Bureau of Agricultural Research is currently funding clone adaptation trials of rubber clones in non-traditional areas. These are located in Quezon, Mindoro, Palawan, Southern Leyte, and Davao City. We also have in Pampanga, and the Bureau is also funding some laboratory experiments in the University of Southern Mindanao. We have this molecular marker development for different clones, recommended clones in the Philippines. And we also have this development of protocol for mass propagation of rubber seedlings through tissue culture techniques and micro cuttings, also by the University of Southern Mindanao. In the UPLB, we are funding research projects about estimation of carbon dioxide sequestration by rubber trees or in rubber plantations. And we are also conducting a survey and characterization of various rubber agroforestry systems, characterizing in terms of different intercrops and the effect on productivity. We are also funding community-based participatory action research projects in different provinces of Mindanao. These are usually showcases of different rubber-based farming systems with different intercrops. Our focus is really on expanding rubber plantations. And one of our challenges is to produce quality planting materials because there is a big demand in, especially in non-traditional growing areas. And many people, many farmers are very interested to plant rubber. And the challenge is how to provide them this quality rubber planting materials. And along this line, we need investors, especially for rubber nursery establishment to produce the needed planting materials.
An open forum session followed the keynote paper presentations. Concurrent paper presentations transpired the entire afternoon.
Natural rubber is a crop grown by the small farmers. So through this conference, we are sharing experiences of the other NR producing countries, where again the majority of the growers are small farmers. So how do they actually, some countries provide some assistance, some they're not able to, but yet the smallholders or the small farmers grow natural rubber. So it takes them some years to before the trees can mature. So while waiting for that, that's why we have this program of cash cropping. They can grow something and get an income And we have found out that where farmers also grow cash crop or intercrop, they tend to visit their holdings more often. So which means they look after the cash crop. The rubber trees also will benefit with the frequent visit of the growers. So this sort of, we are exchanging information, and also it's important to know what sort of clones that they like to grow and how that we can help them with the planting material. Because if you do a proper selection, raise the quality planting materials, then you get a uniformity of stand, and then they get high productivity, which gives them good income and better quality of life. Because rubber is quite effective as a poverty alleviation tool.